Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at Bolivia. A really high-stakes transition is underway there.
It really is. After almost 20 years of the socialist process of change, or MAS, the elections in late 2025 brought in a totally new direction.
Right, with President Rodrigo Paz Pereira and his idea of capitalism for all.
But he inherited a perfect storm. The sources we're seeing are calling it an acute polycrisis. So it's not just one thing going wrong.
It's everything at once.
Exactly. The economy, security, supply chains, all collapsing at the same time.
So let's start with the economy. The core of the problem seems pretty simple when you dig into it. The old state-led model, it just ran out of dollars.
That's the bottom line. Their net international reserves, which is the hard currency they need for everything, it's plummeted. We're talking below $2 billion.
And that is a terrifyingly low number for a government.
It is. And it just shattered any faith in the local currency. For a decade, the Boliviano was pegged at about 6.96 to the US dollar.
That peg is, it's completely meaningless now, right?
Purely academic. If you're actually trying to get dollars today in Bolivia, you're in a parallel market, and the rate is closer to 14.50.
So more than double. That's a premium of over 100% for cash. The impact must be immediate.
Oh, it's visceral. You see it in inflation, which is projected to hit maybe 20, even 30% by year's end.
Was this just inevitable? The country's huge natural gas exports dried up, or was this more of a failure of management?
It was a management failure that got pushed over the edge by the export decline.
Yeah.
For years, the government was pouring money into these massive subsidies.
Especially for fuel, I've read.
Yeah, for fuel. They were basically giving away diesel. This just drained their dollar reserves so fast. And the worst part is, Bolivia used to be a gas powerhouse. Now it's a net energy importer.
So they can't even afford to buy the diesel they need to keep the country moving.
And you see it physically. Logistical paralysis. Lines of trucks waiting for fuel, sometimes for days.
So an economic problem immediately becomes a physical, logistical one. And it sounds like this financial crisis has bled over into a security problem, one that's really defined by the country's geography.
That's the brutal reality there. Bolivian politics is often this fight between the Andean highlands, the Altiplano, and the powerful eastern lowlands around Santa Cruz.
And the choke point is that middle area, right? The sub-Andean valleys.
The area around Cochabamba.
Yes.
Whoever controls that bottleneck can basically cut the country in two.
And that's the perfect staging ground for the main security threat now, the Avista insurgency. This is the faction loyal to the former president, Evo Morales.
Right, and he's barricaded himself in his stronghold in the Chapari region. This isn't parliamentary opposition, it's asymmetric warfare.
They weaponize that geography you mentioned?
Exactly. They use road blockades to paralyze transport. They've seized strategic infrastructure like the Chamorro airport. We're talking about armed resistance.
To the point where international advisories are saying do not travel to that whole region.
It's a no-go zone.
Okay, so let's pivot to the geopolitics. Because the new president, Paz, has moved incredibly fast on this, reversing 17 years of, hostility with the West.
A massive shift. They've restored full ambassadorial relations with the United States and are even talking about bringing the DEA back.
And all of this leads directly to the big prize, doesn't it? Lithium.
It's all about the lithium.
Yeah.
Bolivia is sitting on the world's largest identified reserves, something like 23 million tons. And under the last government, huge deals were signed.
With Russia and China.
Yeah, with a Russian and a Chinese consortium. We're talking over $2 billion in investment.
But Paz has put those on hold.
He's paused them for an audit, which is, pretty clear signal. He's saying the sector has to open up to competitive bidding from Western companies. It's the core of his Capitalism for All platform.
It's one of the highest stakes sector reviews you could imagine.
So the mandate for the new government is normalization. Get dollars back in the banks, get diesel at the pumps, simple stuff.
But the medicine required for that structural adjustment, getting rid of subsidies, devaluing the currency, that carries enormous social risk.
A huge risk. It could spark a revolt.
So if you're listening, what you have is a government caught between needing something like IMF financing to survive on one hand,
and on the other, facing down an armed opposition that can literally shut the country down whenever it wants.
Which brings us to the critical question for 2026.
I think so. It's this. Can the Paz administration actually enforce the rule of law? Can they secure that Cochabamba bottleneck and stop the Avistas from paralyzing the country without the pain from that economic adjustment triggering the very social collapse they're trying to avoid? The whole thing really hinges on who controls the roads.